I think the most intriguing game of the weekend in the Big 12 is K-State, Colorado. I suppose you can call me a homer here, but I think you guys that have watched the show long enough know, like, I don't go out of my way to say, hey, K-State is the real story of the league for that week. And I really haven't at all this year. And this is more so about Colorado. K-State is kind of like, for the most part, held up its end of the bargain, held steady, got blasted at BYU, but it's somewhat offset by the fact that they really took Arizona and Oklahoma State behind the woodshed as well. So they've kind of played to expectations-ish. Definitely still a Big 12 contender, it would appear right now. But Colorado has become a major story, and I mean that in every sense of the word. Colorado has always been a story in college football because of Coach Prime, because they draw in a lot of casual viewers, because of who he is and how they run their program, and they've got really high-level fun players. But now Colorado's like an actual legitimate college football story, you know, because the casuals look at Colorado, and this is what was so frustrating. Like, you could never have just a legitimate conversation about Colorado as a team because the Colorado fanboys want you to say that Colorado is a national championship contender, and the Colorado haters want you to say, well, Colorado's winning 3 games this year. And the reality is, if we're talking about it in terms of them being an actual college football team, an actual program, was somewhere in between, and it always was. But now they are proving that they're growing and developing like a real college football program. They're growing and developing like a real college football team would. We are seeing improvement from their defense, big time. We're seeing a bit of improvement from the offensive line and the running game, their perceived areas of weakness. They seem to clearly be getting better and stronger throughout the season. With the UCF game, say what you will about strength of schedule there. I'm not sure that UCF is much more than about a 6-win team like they were last year, but they went and waxed them on the road with Big Noon Saturday there, with UCF coming off of a bye. Every reason for UCF to be fired up, locked in, ready for that game, and Colorado thumped them from the word go. So now, instead of just these fake conversations about Colorado, we can get down into the nuts and bolts and into the dirt of, hey, this is a real college football story and a real college football program to talk about. Because if you are somebody that just loves college football and how teams and programs grow and develop, this program has gone from worst in Power 5 to last year winning 4 games to this year a 4-1 start where they are shoring up some of the things that appear to be huge weaknesses that they had. And of course, their stars continue to perform, which is never really in doubt. That's one thing that you never really have to doubt about Colorado. Shedeur is going to be great. Travis Hunter is going to be great. That's always there. But they have more than that. They have more depth than that. Some of the transfers they've really hit on the defensive side of the ball are helping them out. And that means they now have the look of a team that could very much compete in what's turned into a predictably wide open Big 12. Very wide open Big 12. And so you will have a lot of people watching here. Piggybacking off, I think this is a nice thing about the late night after dark time slot here, is that you will have people riding the high of watching Ohio State, Oregon, and Ole Miss LSU going on at the same time in your typical evening window. They will be able to just coast right into, hey, man, that was great. I'm buzzing off that game. I need a little bit more. Oh, boy, here's K-State and Colorado. Here's K-State and 4-1 Colorado coming off of their best win of the year and their best game, frankly, of the Coach Prime era at UCF. Like, this is a fun game to watch. Last week, Miami Cal got a 1.92 million viewers. They got that kind of a rating in that same time slot. Like, I think Colorado's going to be an even bigger draw. I don't really worry about this approaching that like 3-ish million range. Colorado's typically been within 3 or 4 million in the more conventional windows. You're definitely going to get more than 2 for this game. And I think the fact that you have such a nice lead in from those bigger games, and everybody's saying like, I don't want to go to bed yet. I need more of that. And you've got a matchup like this that, I mean, real ones definitely know. Colorado will get the casuals no matter what, but real ones definitely know, if you're following college football, how intriguing this game is. The real storyline of this game, to me, there are 2 things. Like, if you want to go big picture storylines for each team, Colorado has clearly improved. They have the star power. They have a lot of elements, also including momentum right now as a team and program that are shooting the arrow straight up. However, and this will get me crushed, I'm sure, in the comments by the Colorado fans that seem to just live to go seek out anything they can take as real negativity or perceived negativity about their program. But there is reason to question the strength of the schedule so far. Nebraska, I think, is a solid team. They got hit pretty good by Nebraska in that first half. Their defensive line really wrecked shop. Now, Colorado played much better in the second half, and that's where the defensive turnaround really seemed to begin. North Dakota State, that's not a quintessential North Dakota State team. It was a pretty close game, one possession game in Boulder. Had to kind of hang on there. Nothing against blowing out Colorado State, but Colorado State has not turned out to be a great squad. Baylor, it took a Hail Mary, and, all the conversation around Baylor right now is about firing their coach. That seems to almost be like a lame duck situation with the head coach. There are UCF fans that kind of want that same conversation with Gus Malzahn now, and UCF last week after the Colorado game, when they were still a computer darling, boy, they went to Florida last week, and I mean, that offense couldn't do anything. And that's against, speaking of lame duck head coach, a Florida program where everybody knows the coach is getting fired. That's one of the worst Florida teams we've seen in years. They don't have any juice. Miami waltzed all over them with their offense, and UCF couldn't move the ball. I mean, UCF could not score. So there's reason to question Colorado's strength of schedule. Well, now here comes a team that at least most of us, we think is pretty good. We think is good. K-State had that perception going into the year. They have a high-profile quarterback. They recently won the league 2 years ago. People fancied them a playoff contender coming into the year. And yes, well, there is one disappointing loss on their resume. They've had a couple of blowout wins to offset some of that. We perceive K-State to be definitely a step up in competition. So how real is it, Colorado? That's kind of the question on that side. How real is it? For K-State, it's, boy, you guys still seem to be contenders, but you're going to have to win games on the road. And that's been a major problem. I mean, they arguably should have lost the game at Tulane. That was very close. They got gashed in the secondary that game, which certainly doesn't bode well for playing Colorado. And then they went to BYU and just let one mistake completely snowball into all of a sudden they're losing by 4 touchdowns. Not a great track record on the road this year for K-State, and they're pretty young. So they need to prove that they can actually win on the road. Can this team actually keep it together on the road? I mean, I think you see it a lot with like young teams, especially one that's going to be led by a young quarterback. Just a big time variance in the performance that you're going to get on the road versus the performance that you're going to get at home. And obviously, the matchup, the time slot, everything, this road game so much more resembles BYU than it does Tulane for this team. It will be an amped up crowd that's going to have way more of an edge than what you had at BYU for sure. Doesn't necessarily mean it will be a better atmosphere or environment. Don't take that the wrong way, BYU fans. But I just mean, they may be getting batteries thrown at the sideline as opposed to people encouraging them, as Avery Johnson said after the game. And the other problem for K-State is that I think they're a big game control sort of team. Colorado's got more ways to beat you. I mean, Baylor had them beat, and they came back because they have playmakers in the passing game, and they can make up for that. Meanwhile, K-State really, it's a fabulous rushing attack, tremendous rushing attack. It's better than UCF's, and it's one that Colorado has not seen yet this year. But K-State ran the ball on BYU just fine, but it didn't matter when you start falling behind by 2-3 scores. Then you got to throw the ball. So if K-State does have a slow start, which they've done a lot over the last 2 years on the road, you're going to be in trouble. You won't be able to use your best asset as much, which is the running game. So look, I don't know if the way that I've described it will tell you the way that I'm leaning. I went on our podcast today. It's going to be released tomorrow. So 3 Mile listeners, you'll get it tomorrow. But I went on our podcast today. I picked Colorado to win. I don't feel great about it. I need K-State to prove to me that they can do this thing on the road in a really tough environment. I just haven't seen it yet from this team. I haven't seen it. I would love to be proven wrong on that, but I'm going to take Colorado in a close game because I think K-State still has to grow into having the ability to do that. Colorado has so many ways that they can beat you, even if they fall behind. And I mean, one of K-State's biggest weaknesses this year, if not the biggest weakness, has just been the secondary. It's not been great. Jacob Parrish is good. One corner, everybody else has left something to be desired in that secondary. And so I've got nightmares of not just Travis Hunter. I mean, Jimmy Horn, Will Shepard, like they've got some real dudes beyond just Travis Hunter in that receiving core. And I don't know that K-State's front four is good enough to just totally wreck the game like Nebraska's was. Colorado's offensive line may not be the best in the world, but I don't know that K-State's defensive line is dominant enough like Nebraska's to totally shut it down. So I got to give Colorado the edge.